There was a time when human beings spent more time alone with their thoughts, not isolated, not disconnected, not emotionally withdrawn, but reflective. There were moments of silence between activities, moments of stillness between conversations, moments when the mind had space to process experience instead of constantly reacting to it. But modern life rarely allows that anymore. Today, silence is often treated like emptiness. The moment boredom appears, people reach for stimulation. The moment discomfort appears, distraction arrives almost instantly. A screen lights up, a notification appears, another video begins, another opinion enters the mind before the previous thought has even fully settled. And slowly, almost invisibly, something important begins disappearing from human life. Reflection, not intelligence, not information, not productivity. Reflection, the ability to pause long enough to truly examine our thoughts, our emotions, our decisions, our habits, and the direction our lives are quietly moving, because a person can be informed without being reflective, busy without being intentional, connected without understanding themselves at all. And perhaps this is one of the quiet tragedies of modern life. Many people move from one distraction to another without ever fully meeting themselves in silence. Reflection has always been one of the most important human skills. Long before modern psychology existed, philosophers, spiritual traditions, writers, and thinkers understood something essential. A life lived without reflection easily becomes a life lived unconsciously. Not because people are unintelligent, but because human beings naturally drift toward habit, repetition, emotional reaction, and social conditioning unless they consciously interrupt those patterns. Reflection interrupts automatic living. It creates distance between stimulus and reaction, emotion and behavior, noise and clarity. Without reflection, people simply absorb the emotional atmosphere around them. Fear spreads quickly, outrage spreads quickly, comparison spreads quickly, and in an age where millions of people consume endless streams of emotional stimulation every day, reflection becomes even more necessary, and increasingly more rare. Because reflection requires something modern culture often resists: slowness, not laziness, not passivity, slowness of mind, the willingness to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, to observe before judging, to sit with discomfort instead of immediately escaping it. But modern systems are not designed to encourage reflection. They are designed to capture attention. Entire industries compete for human focus every second of every day. The longer people remain stimulated, reactive, emotionally activated, and distracted, the more profitable their attention becomes, and slowly, human beings begin losing their tolerance for stillness. Many people now experience silence almost like withdrawal. A quiet room feels uncomfortable. Waiting without checking a phone feels difficult. Even moments of rest often become filled with background noise, scrolling, or passive consumption. And over time, this constant stimulation changes something deeper than behavior. It changes inner life itself, because reflection cannot survive in permanent mental noise. A reflective person notices things reactive people often miss. They notice emotional patterns repeating in their relationships. They notice how certain environments affect their state of mind. They notice how exhaustion changes their decisions. They notice how much of modern life quietly rewards speed over depth, and perhaps most importantly, they notice themselves. Not the performed identity shown to the world, the real self underneath. Fears, contradictions, insecurities, motivations, emotional wounds, values, and aspirations. This is why reflection is not always comfortable. True reflection often disrupts comforting illusions. A person may realize they have been emotionally avoiding something for years, living according to expectations that no longer feel meaningful, constantly distracted because silence forces difficult truths to surface, or chasing achievements that do not actually create fulfillment. Reflection exposes misalignment, and many people unconsciously avoid reflection for that reason, because staying busy can temporarily protect a person from confronting deeper questions. Questions like, Why am I constantly exhausted? Why do I feel emotionally disconnected? What kind of life am I actually building? When was the last time I truly felt present? Have I become someone I no longer recognize? These are not comfortable questions, but they are necessary ones, because without reflection, people can spend years moving quickly in directions they never consciously chose. Perhaps this is why so many people today feel internally fragmented. Modern life trains human beings to constantly consume information, but rarely teaches them how to process experience deeply. People absorb news, opinions, entertainment, outrage, trends, and endless digital stimulation, but very little time is spent turning inward. Very little time is spent asking, what is all this doing to my mind? What deserves my attention? What kind of person am I becoming through my daily habits? And eventually, the mind becomes crowded, not with wisdom, with noise. Reflection transforms information into understanding. Without reflection, experience simply accumulates without becoming insight. A person can repeat the same emotional patterns for decades while believing they are growing simply because time is passing. But time alone does not create wisdom. Awareness does. And awareness requires reflection. There is another reason reflection has become more difficult in modern life. Speed creates emotional shallowness. When life moves too quickly, people begin reacting instead of observing. Conversations become shorter. Attention becomes fragmented. Emotions become compressed. Many people no longer fully process grief, disappointment, loneliness, uncertainty, or emotional fatigue. They move immediately toward distraction because modern culture often treats emotional discomfort as something to eliminate as quickly as possible. But emotions that are never reflected upon rarely disappear. They simply move deeper beneath the surface, and often reappear later as anxiety, irritability, emotional numbness, chronic exhaustion, or quiet dissatisfaction with life itself. Reflection allows human beings to metabolize emotional experience instead of merely carrying it. And perhaps this is one of the forgotten truths of psychological health. A person who never slows down long enough to process life internally eventually becomes emotionally overwhelmed by life externally. And maybe that is what many people are truly searching for today. Not more stimulation, not more information, not another endless stream of content, but clarity, a quieter inner world, the ability to hear their own thoughts again beneath the constant noise of modern life. Because, deep down, many people sense something important has been lost. Not technology, not convenience, not progress, but space. Mental space, emotional space, reflective space, the kind of inner stillness where human beings once examined their lives more carefully. And perhaps the real danger is not simply that modern life became louder, but that many people no longer remember how to be quiet within themselves. Reflection is not about withdrawing from life completely, it is about becoming more conscious in life. A reflective person still participates in the modern world, but differently. They become more intentional with attention, relationships, emotional reactions, habits, and time. They begin noticing which activities nourish them, and which ones merely distract them. They learn the difference between stimulation and meaning, information and wisdom, performance and authenticity, busyness and fulfillment. And, slowly, their relationship with life changes. Not dramatically, quietly. Because reflection rarely transforms people overnight. It transforms them gradually through repeated moments of honest awareness. A pause before reacting, a walk without constant stimulation, a quiet evening without endless scrolling, a difficult conversation examined honestly afterward, a willingness to ask, why did that affect me so deeply? What am I avoiding? What truly matters to me now? These small moments seem insignificant in isolation, but over time, they rebuild inner clarity, and clarity changes how people live. Perhaps one of the greatest losses in modern life is not only distraction itself, but the disappearance of spaces where human beings can encounter themselves honestly. Moments without performance, without comparison, without noise. Because reflection requires honesty, and honesty requires courage, especially in a culture constantly encouraging people to stay distracted, entertained, emotionally reactive, and externally focused. But human beings cannot build meaningful lives without occasionally stepping back and examining the direction they are heading. Not every answer appears immediately. Sometimes reflection simply reveals confusion at first, but even confusion honestly examined has more value than unconscious living repeated endlessly. Because the moment a person begins reflecting consciously, they begin reclaiming authorship over their own life, and perhaps that is the deeper purpose of reflection, not perfection, not self-criticism, not endless overthinking, but awareness. Awareness of what shapes us, what drains us, what nourishes us, what matters, and who we are slowly becoming through the choices we repeat every day. The lost art of reflection may be one of the most important human skills worth recovering today. In a world filled with noise, speed, distraction, and endless stimulation, reflection creates something increasingly rare: inner clarity. And perhaps wisdom does not begin with having all the answers. Perhaps wisdom begins the moment a person becomes willing to pause long enough to ask better questions. Because a reflective life is not necessarily a perfect life, but it is a more conscious one. And maybe that consciousness is what allows human beings to remain deeply human, even in a world constantly pulling their attention away from themselves. If this reflection resonated with you, welcome to The Lost Human Skills, a documentary series exploring the forgotten human capacities that once gave life greater depth, clarity, meaning, and emotional balance in a fast-moving modern world.